patriarchy, not a patriarchy.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Princella, the Queen Maker.
Love that.
So, you say we live in a matriarchy.
Right.
Can you give me the definition of the patriarchy?
Yes. Well, the patriarchy is the idea that the system, our system in America, is being run by men, and that women are having to exist under a system that immediately disadvantages them because men are behind it.
So probably most men do run the country. It's probably mostly men that run the country, but it's the extreme and the elite men that are basically holding the country to where it's at right now. It's the extreme and the elite. There's always going to be extremists. There's going to be elite people that say, oh, women deserve to be in the kitchen. Oh, women can't tell me nothing. Those are the extreme men that definitely should not be running the world, because you can't tell them nothing and they're only focused on one thing, and their mind, you cannot change their mind. That's really what's wrong.
And I disagree with that pointedly. I think actually we're living in a society where people are being very much influenced socially and politically by women.
Okay, so the denotative definition of patriarchy is father rule, and where positions of government are held majorly by men, where women are largely excluded. So 125 House of Representatives are female, and that's only about 25%, and only about 28% make up Senate, and 3.3% of Congress up until this date have ever been women. So by denotative definition, we literally live in a patriarchy.
Yes, so I disagree with that. So I think what this gets to, which is actually an important part of the conversation, is that people always think that where there is disparity, there's somehow inequality, and I actually reject that entirely. I think it's just a difference in what we're interested in. I think we're biologically wired, we're interested in different careers, and just because if we looked in the fashion industry and said, oh, well, it's being dominated by women, it wouldn't mean that, okay, well, that means that the fashion industry is a matriarchy and men have no sense. It just means have no ability to communicate how they feel in the fashion industry. I literally think that those numbers show that we're just biologically different. So I actually think politically, women have shown that they have a lot more power than men have. And I'm talking about just in terms of political movements. The most recent I can think of is the Me Too movement, right? If a bunch of women get together and complain about a man and refer to patriarchy and scream, generally speaking, let me know if you agree, the media will celebrate that. If a bunch of men got together and were shrieking and speaking about women, generally speaking, the media would call them all white supremacists and say that we had a misogyny problem and that things were really wrong in society. Women are allowed to be more vocal in general about problems than men are.
Well, let me speak to that. When we're talking about government and media, these are two different things. So, under the denotative definition of a patriarchy, by the percentages that are occupied in the government, which is majority male, defines us as a patriarchy. Now, when it comes to for capitalism, for marketing purposes and control, for capital and revenue, that is a totally different conversation. But who's making the laws? I don't think that women are the ones voting to have their reproductive rights taken away, where you have rape, incest, and all of these things excluded to force women to be able. I don't think women in government would largely vote against their own interests because it's majority male, patriarchy.
I think, love that point. Are women allowed to vote?
Oh, of course they do.
Who's voting that patriarchy and then out of curiosity?
No, I totally agree. And you want to know why? Because there are so many women who think like you. You submit to the idea of men ruling everything. And your ideology is spread across a lot of women who.
She's 100% cooking. Me personally, I think if women were smart enough, because women actually do have all the power, but they're just not smart enough to actually gain that power over men, because men basically do anything for women. Obviously, in a certain barbarian, men could take anything they want from women, because men and women are different, and men are stronger per se, and their body types are different, but mentally and their body wise, women do have, I would say women do have the power until men forcibly take it.
who also falsely believe to vote against their own interests just to complain about it in the end. You know, you earlier you said that, you know, women would be much more happier working at home, but don't you agree that it's human nature to want things that you don't have? So during the 1950s, which is something that you constantly bring up, you know, it wasn't until 1994 that it was legally illegal to beat your wife. And so what we're dealing with is people wanting something, and then when they get it, they're not happy with it, and then they have to revoke that idea for something else. And so what you're saying is that women vote for these things because they have the same mentality as you.
Okay. So you're acknowledging that women have the freedom to vote.
Yes.
And you're saying that women are still existing mentally, even with the freedom to vote.
Correct.
They are voting men in because we are still victims of.
No, I don't believe in victimhood. I believe in lack of education and lack of knowledge, because one of the things that you also say.
Do you think that it could just be that more men are running for positions of office?
No, not necessarily. Because remember, the United States, the average reading comprehension of people in the United States is 6th grade. So we're not.
Literally, a woman could run for office if they chose to, but people aren't. The women aren't choosing to. Or let's say a large percentage of women aren't choosing to. Actually, they were talking about. They were talking about. They were talking about abortion. It's definitely a woman's choice to have an abortion. I don't feel like anybody can tell the woman what they can and can't do with their body. Even though it is wrong, I believe it is wrong to have an abortion. Somebody shouldn't be able to tell them, hey, you can't do that, or you can do that, because God gave everybody a choice to do what they wanted to do. That is 100% your choice, no matter if it's wrong or right. Now, who you gotta talk to is the doctors who's actually doing the procedure, because it's their choice for them to kill or not to kill. So why are they choosing to do it? If you want to have abortion and it's not a life and death situation between the mother, why is the doctor choosing to, okay, yeah, just come in and we'll get it done for you? It's like, what? So that's something else you gotta think about. And that's something else the doctors are gonna have to think about in their lifetime, of why they killed so many babies just because they chose to.
Dealing with educated people. Lack of education is the cause for what we see in the world. And if we educate the women better, because a nation can rise no higher than its woman, and if she reading and comprehending at a 6th grade level and popping out a lot of kids, you know, the brokest people in the world pop out the most kids. So if we have those people voting, of course they're going to vote against their interests, because they're voting for some utopian society that will never exist.
Okay, so that's why you think Kamala lost.
This ain't even about Kamala.
But you're talking about women. No, but we had an opportunity.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had a male running and we had a female running, and we actually showed that Trump increased the amount of women who voted for him, right? So I'm asking you, do you believe that the reason that happened was because women became less educated during that time?
They've always been less educated. Did you know that UNESCO says that that 2/3 of the 7.7 million illiterate adults is women? Illiterate. And we have 6th grade educated people voting. And guess who? Guess the dominant population is white women. And so guess what? Now you have to add a race element into that, which you already know exists. Because we, as black folks, we are the dominant people voting people in. Okay, so now when we have to go into white supremacy and feminism, now you have to look at the mind of the people who actually have economic success and what they're voting for, because classism actually matters as well. So
This girl is cooking 100%. And 100% education is definitely a must. So a lot of people need more education. And again, it's for society again. It's like society needs to totally change.
I'm sorry, but a lot of people vote based on their feelings and not based on policy.
Pause, guys. sorry. You've been voted out by the majority.
Thank you for the
This girl really said, I'm so confused. You're so confused that you're having a discussion and you can't see other people's views, even though you're having a discussion about your thoughts. Really? What's the point of having a discussion if you can't everybody come together, share their feelings, and then come to a reasonable conclusion off of that? Not, oh, my way is the only way. It's like, what is really going on here? I'm so confused. It's like, what?